everything went wrong in the last class. This point, because what they perceived with the senses was more important than the Shastra. And so, yes, means the perfection of the Shastra means it's Shastra Chakshus, right? Means not the Shastra, but my involvement with it is that according to Shastra I see, remember, I think it was maybe last year, maybe it was this year, no, I think it was this year, earlier in the course, then Srila Prabhupada is making the point that the pure devotees, they, in one sense, don't see the material world the way everybody else does. They have a completely different vision. Because even though the senses are working and they're perceiving what's around them, but what they're perceiving of that is different from what the materialists perceive. Because they'll perceive it all as Krishna, his potencies, how he's making it work, how it's all going. Does that make sense? That's then the difference. Well, the other one will be seeing it and then what I can get from it. Right? So then that's the faith in the Shastra, or the faith in themselves. Now, what's behind that? Right? So the faith in the Shastra has to be theirs because the Shastras come from Krishna. We want to please Krishna. Krishna is given the Shastra. So to please Krishna, therefore I have to see according to the vision of the Shastra. Yes?
Can we say the difference between the ascending and descending process primarily is faith in Shastra?
Faith in Shastra, but also then you have ultimately just like let's say the Smarta has faith in Shastra, but for what? So then you have the ultimate aspect is what's the level of consciousness? What's it for? What's your intent? So is it to please Krishna? So it's spiritual, or it's not? So it covers the other four: Dharma, Artha, and Kama.
So is yoga considered an ascending process?
Any of these aspects the schools are based on are ascending or descending depending upon whether they see it in connection with the Lord or not.
Okay, so if one is performing yoga to please Krishna, it could be said that's a
descending, yes. But at the same time, if we're involved in mixed devotional service, then there'll be some kind of a mix there. Just like, let's say, the Smarta has faith in the Shastra, so you can say in one sense it's descending on one level, because he starts with there, but his purpose in it is not because of the Lord. It's his own desire, and so it's ascending.
So we could say that technically, although a person is practicing Krishna consciousness, even for many years, if we analyze his level, exactly where he's at, it could determine that he's actually performing more of an ascending process.
Yes, because until you get to pure devotional service, then one is plagued with the ascending process. It's just that you have the descending mixed with the ascending. Right? So that's what mixed devotional service means. You're trying to get rid of karma and gyan. Karma and gyan means ascending. Because I'm starting with my senses and what benefit I can get in the way of karma or gyan, and therefore I'm applying the Shastra and like this. That's why then Krishna says sarva dharmam parityaja. Right? Is that one must try to understand the Krishna, and from him, he being the source, then you apply religion. Because otherwise you apply religion, you connect it to him, it will be progressive. But we're starting with ourselves, so in that way it's ascending. Though we're using the Vedic methods properly. Means our inherent thing is it's ascending. Our fence has gotten lower. Or the elephants have gotten bigger. Or both. See, this is speculation. So it's amazing how quiet they are, right? They don't make noise. Did I hit something? Oh. Yes.
Mars, so we all, as a devotees, we all accept descending process as one of the first lessons we get.
Yes.
However, the difficulty seems to be is that we find huge gap between what's in the Shastra and what's our own experience in life. And then that, as you mentioned, we're disconnected, so we can't really, it's like, it's too far away.
But that's where Anuman comes in. That's the process. That's the point, and you've heard, Shravanam, right? Then the next is contemplation. Right? So manana. So you're going to contemplate, the Shastra says this, I see this. But instead of trying to interpret it according to how I see, I try to interpret how I see according to what Shastra says. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the crux of the difference here. That's where the whole thing went south, was at this point, because the demand was, unless we can see it with our senses, how do we have faith in it? But the point is that that's there for a very neophyte person, or someone who doesn't have any understanding at all. Yes, the better they have that, it works for them. But, seeing that this class is the 8th year in a 12-year course, then we're not talking about, we're not doing loft preaching here. This is part of the nourishment of the devotees, right? Lord Chaitanya is, that aspect of that Vishrambar, that he's nourishing the devotees. So we're trying to appreciate and understand Lord Chaitanya's teaching. So then it's a matter of, I see here that Krishna and the residents of Indraprastha are interacting. And we're seeing in the specific case how Kunti Devi, is receiving the, Krishna and that, and then instructing Draupadi to worship all the queens. Because now, why couldn't Kunti do it? Kunti could do it. In fact, she'd be happy doing it, right? But now what's going to be the problem?
She's a senior, right?
She's senior, because we're talking about pastimes. Now, if you look at the other way, is that she's just a jiva who's a devotee, and you're talking about the Lord's internal potency. And especially you're talking about the expansion of Radharani as Rukmini, as Satyabhama, as all these different, so on that level, then it's there. But we're talking here, what's manifesting is sweetness. Means it is Dwarka, so it does have the both. So because of that, then if Draupadi does, then she is the wife of the Pandavas, so she is the lady of the house as such. So she has that superior position. She's just not just, they said just a maidservant or something. No, she is, of course. But at the same time, she's at a level where the queens would be able to accept that. Because either they're like, as equals, or it'll be very close. So it'll have that more, that more friendly kind of aspect. Does that make sense? So, therefore, that's the etiquette. That's how it is. This is the example. Now, we take that and then with Anuman try to apply that into our life. So I don't see it. What could I do? Not what everybody else should do. What could I do to be able to have that appreciation of the etiquette and try to apply it into my life? And we see etiquette through all the books. Does that make sense? So that's how it's going. So it's already being presented very nicely. And so we just have to take those and apply it into our situation. If we demand that externally it has to be there before I can get involved, then we're demanding everybody else become advanced in devotional service, become expert in devotional service. And when they finally get it together and manifest it so that I, who am the center of attention, then can appreciate it and go, wow, this is nice, I want to do this. Yes, but are we in a position to demand that or expect it? And is that called self-realization? Is that independence? So that's the problem, is that we're being given a concept that I can find fault in others, that gives me independence. But at the same time I'm expecting that everybody else would change. That makes me actually totally dependent. We understand? So why would these mixes come up? That's because of not understanding things, because of the mode of ignorance. So we start with Krishna wants it this way, I try to apply it this way, and then I add that little bit into the universe that it's done nicely. Not that if I'm going to do it, everybody else has got to do it, because that means I'm again starting with myself, not with Krishna. So that's the whole thing. Pure devotional service means it's about Krishna. Then the whole thing works. Then we won't get distracted by the secondary example that's given Because within that, then we mentioned that where is this defined so that we know. That's given in Varnashram. And so Varnashram is important to do, though some people aren't into the Varnashram and this and that. This is the point then where the hook goes in. Right? Now it's on to secondary. It's making a distinction between right and wrong here, so it's down on this level now. And so now, I find also right and wrong and people following and not following and that. Does that make sense? And so, therefore, we have to keep it to what we see, how we can see it. Not that, this person said that, what do you say about that? It doesn't matter because that person's not going to get benefited by what I say. What's going to get benefited is by who those are students. So that means the student, if they understand, then you can convince them. Why I have to convince them, and you sit there as you make them the second party and yourself the question, who's asking the question, the third party. This is where the problem comes in. If we'll notice, this is the pattern. And so we've gotten an example. Then when we make that, then we switch it from there to a primary discussion into a secondary, and the differences in the secondary and my values on it and how I perceive it. This is what's happening. And so that's not that it's not a good discussion, but the point is this is not the forum for it. Right? The first years are the forum, up through the 6th canto. But from the 7th canto, and then it's trying to discern what's pure devotional service and what's not. That's what we have to do. Not whether we can see what Shastra says around us or not. But we can only see it if we are looking for it. Does that make sense? Because if we're looking for it, we can see it. But if we're expecting it to be right there, obvious for my senses, you'll never see it. Duryodhana, did he see that Krishna's a nice guy? Everybody else is seeing, but he's not seeing. So that's the whole point, is that this idea that I demand that I can see it, or my problems in preaching, that you have to take care of that. No. Because it can never be taken care of. Until you understand it yourself and apply it yourself in your own life, then you can't convince anybody else. So it's not everybody else has a problem, right? It's that we have the problem. So we have to stop projecting it onto that third party. Does that make sense?
Maharaj, we say that Vedas are flawless.
Yes.
And when we, in spite of practicing for so many years Krishna consciousness, we are not able to, if at all, for in some parts, some portions of the Vedas, not
Right.
able to put faith in Vedas,
Right.
then the flaw is with us. So
Yes.
then how can one get rid of this particular?
How can one get rid of this flaw? So, okay. So we're accepting that the Shastra is correct. And then we're accepting that we have a flaw. Right? Are we accepting the middle section of the Anuman, how to take that and apply it in our life? Or are we just seeing the flaw and not using the Anuman? You understand? Yes, because when we do that, we're not using the Anuman. And so that's the meaning of submissive inquiry. It means you're using Anuman and you still can't understand it, so therefore the teacher helps you. Not that I've heard, you said this, but I've seen this, and so therefore I don't even try in the middle, and therefore, hey, what about this, and no, but, and, like this, but you said, and, all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense? So that's the difficulty that comes up, is we're not using the Anuman. That's where I mentioned what was so amazing, that a room full of karmi, straight up front karmi Bohemians, all there with, literally, their berets, their goatees, and shabby a little bit, it can't be perfectly done. And, kind of like baggy work shirts and pants and some cuffs and some kind of loafer shoes and slouched around. Those guys would do Anuman and take it down 6 steps before they ran out of steam, and then they would ask a question on that. And those were karmis.
So that means we require education on Anuman itself.
Yes. Yes, but the point is it's Anuman means is that we already have heard that. A means like A equals B, B equals C, so A equals C. So therefore, it's I'm seeing this, Shastra says that, so what form does Shastra show that it should be? And so then what's the essential point of that? So where to look for that here rather than just whatever I see, then that's it. You know? That's like walking into the store and we say, oh yeah, it has this fabulous stuff in the store. And when I first walk in the store, I only see schlock. You know, because that's right what's next to the counters. Like that. And then I go, well, you know, where's the good stuff? You know, where is it? It's not here. Why don't you walk around and look? But we're demanding, no, that I get like this. So we have to be very, very careful at this point. As you can see, it's a touchy point. So, because we're trying to move forward with this in practical, applying it in our life rather than someone else is giving the philosophy how everybody else in the universe should change and therefore it'll be perfect for me. Yes. Finally, the light goes on. Right? We were sitting in darkness and then finally, yeah. Does that make sense? So that's been the problem. That's, if you want to put your finger on it, what the annoying thing of these guys is, it's about what everybody else should do. You know, what the management should do, what the farm community should do, what this should do, what that should do. But this is not a forum for that. This is a forum for what you can do. And that means you change your consciousness. So not, well, what can I do externally? No, you have to change your consciousness. And that means I have to see it's about Krishna. So therefore I'm using Anandamaya rather than the other four. Then, you know, what's the proper character that I'm using? And so that character aspect is that, you know, is it that humility, tolerance, as respect, all these different things, are they being used for the qualities? Then down to that, then I have my knowledge and skills. Because the point is, if the spiritual is there and the qualities are there, even if the knowledge and skills isn't so perfect, it actually is already perfect. Even if the qualities aren't all there, but the consciousness is right to please Krishna, it's still perfect. But we have this idea is not only when it's externally perfect, then it'll be good. But there is no, where is it? Where is this perfect place? Right? Because the material world's designed that it won't have it. Maya's made it so it's not there. There's a hope that it's there, but it's never there. You understand? So if you use the Anuman, see the problem is I'm using Anuman here. Now I can say is, okay, you see is like, okay, like in Calcutta, you'll have the Quest Mall. But what's all around it? Just dumpy houses. So that's the point. It's never perfect. So that's Anuman. I've taken this point and then given an example using Anuman. But now the discussion we have to keep it from now being about that. Well, you know, what's the wrong? You know, people don't have money. Why we should have the Quest Mall there? That's absolutely not important at all. Right? Means if we're just discussing that, we can get into that. But the point is then we have to take it, okay, so then how does that apply into my situation? You know? Does that make sense? I'm seeing this, I go to the village, and I see cow dung everywhere and everything like this. So what's the point? Have they been trained? No. But if you go to any city, then the point is how much garbage is there? Tons, right? But because the city management collects the garbage, and they tell you, put your garbage out at this time, they make laws, they make this, that, otherwise everyone would just throw their garbage everywhere. It's not that the West is so much more sophisticated by the average person, it's their governance is more sophisticated. Because the average person, if the government was that, they'd just throw junk everywhere. You understand? It would just be Mad Max. That's it. That's what you'd see. So when we complain about these places, oh, it's so dirty, it's so this and that, it's because the government does that. Like in Singapore, it's perfect. Why? Because if you do anything, it's I don't know what it is now, but when somebody was telling me about it, which was $1,000 now.
For chewing gum.
1,000, okay. Because when I heard about it, which was about 10 or 15 years ago, it was $100. So they've raised it. That was last year. They raised it to 1,000.
I'm not sure if they raised, but last year it was $1,000.
$1,000, yeah. If you have a puddle Anywhere on your property where water can sit after a rain, and there's not perfect drainage, then you're fined for being a mosquito breeder, because you're giving facility for mosquitoes to breed. So that means you get out there and make your level, make everything perfect. So it's because the government is there. That's why you could say, in one sense, it's the closest thing where the whole city looks pretty good. But at the same time, they don't like tourists to go into the local areas, even though the local areas are good, but they still don't like them to go there. I remember it was, what do you call it? I went to Singapore and said, because I was going to stay with a friend. I'm staying with friends. It's all like immediately. How do you know them? Why are you here? What's going on? Like this and that. So then they said, no, you have to say you're staying at a hotel and this, so they see you're spending money. Because if you're going to stay with a friend, you're spending your own money. Why are you coming to Singapore? You come here to spend money, right? So then I thought, okay, I'll be more careful about that next time. Then I went to Israel and said, so what are you doing? I'm staying in a hotel and this and that. What are you doing here? Why you don't know anybody here? Why are you here? You come here to see people, not to stay. Oh my God. Yeah, so you can't win. Huh?
Nothing does.
Yeah. It's got, make sure you know. Singapore, hotel. Israel, friends. Yeah. Yes.
Right, we're trying to follow that process of accepting Shabda and then contemplate. And we hear from the acharyas, from the spiritual master, and then sometimes we face the stumbling block is that as if their realization become ours, where we reflect their realizations.
Right.
However, after some time we realize we're not at that level, and then the meltdown happens.
No, but the point is reflection is good if we're having faith in what we're trying to do. But we also we have that position, we're not the same. We're following. So we're not imitating, we're following the footsteps. So that's one of the ways that you get that benefit by being around advanced devotees. Then there is that aspect of reflection.
Yeah.
And so then we take on those qualities. And so if we're trying to please Krishna, then taking on those qualities, let's say it's like we say, it's a nice kirtan and everybody's excited, but normally we're not that excited, but we get excited. And so that's good for us. And so then we have that taste, not that, I'm not at that level, that's a taste of what level I could be on if I continue the process. So we always, that's why we always call so Krishna, and that's our natural position and works back, it makes it so much easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's also then why the association of devotees is so important, because then we're always using this aspect of Hanuman, and we get as far as we can, and when we can't get farther, then by that association we learn how to apply it more. Like that. So it's not a problem that we can't effectively always apply the Hanuman as well as we would like to. The problem is when we don't see the importance of it, we just go straight from Shabda to Pratyaksha, our senses, and that I don't see it, so it's wrong. And then it's the onus is on everybody else to make it right for them. So the problem is where is their endeavor? Because they can say no, but I want to know, but you're not making the endeavor. It's like that story of, what do you call it? I think I'm not sure where it's from. It's definitely an Asian thing, but whether it's from India or more broader, that there was a flood, and the flood's going up and that, and some guy came along and he was, stranded. Somebody came along and, something. It said, you can come with us now or something. We have, let's say there's a horse or something, you can come with us now. And then you say, no, I have faith in God. God will save me. So I'm okay. So then water goes a little higher. He's getting a little fire. And comes in a boat. Hey, come, let's go like that. No, God's going to take care of us and all this and that. So then it goes far, and then he's up on the roof and that, and then a helicopter comes and this and that. No, God's going to save us and that. Then, the water comes higher and he drowns, right? And then he comes before God and all that, and he asks God, why didn't you save me? He says, what do you want me to do? I sent you a horse, I sent you a boat, and I sent you a helicopter. I mean, what else do you want? So that kind of thing is that we have to be willing to make the effort, not that everybody else has to make the effort. Does that make sense? Because then that takes on all kinds of. We don't have that Brahminical independence where we're applying it ourselves. Yes.
Some years ago, somebody in the class asked you that all the acharyas are there, but I want to see living acharyas. So your answer was these acharyas are not dead; they are all living and they're showing us their example every single.
Yes, nice. Yes. So that's why Bhaktivedanta is making the point. They're there. It sounds. So that's what I was saying is that this is the example. This is the pastime. It's the example. It's the perfection. So it is the knowledge. It is the process. It is the result. So it is everything. And then from this, of trying to apply that here, then you try to affect it outside. But if we don't use that process, you won't see it. So we can say, okay, well, farms aren't happening, communities aren't happening. Why aren't they happening? Because we're not using the Anuma. We're not using Shastra as the basis. We're using our own attachments, like I like fresh air or something like that, or, I like simple living, because if I wasn't a devotee, I'd be out in some commune somewhere, like that. Not the Israeli ones, like that. Does that make sense? So the whole point is that it's in line with material qualities I appreciate, and so therefore I'm going, so it's from me back to Shastra, which is all right as the beginning, but then as long as it has that pure devotional flavor, that I'm trying to do this for Krishna and using my intelligence, so we're applying the Anuma, and then slowly it'll work out the other way. That's why the first chapters of Gita have all shown how you can do it through that, see your religious process, follow that religious process and move up, but still you have to make the endeavor, even if you want to use the religious processes and then connect it to Krishna, still it's Krishna's rules on how the process works. And it has to be connected to him. But ultimately you're trying to get to, it starts with him, to please him, that's why we're doing it. But if it's a matter of, no, it's my likes and dislikes and everybody else has to adjust for that, it's mundane, it's not spiritual. We're not making that distinction. We're not using the intelligence here to distinguish. We're just the mind's accepting what I like, and this I can't understand it, so I reject it. Right? So I'm using, yeah. This doesn't make sense? Yes.
Looks like that this bubbling up of misgivings is connected to the lack of training in humility.
That's there, but it's not that. Yes, it's lack of training in humility. But you can have a misgiving, but there's the culture of how to present it. That's why I've been warning so much of the times that you said and but and all these things. It means it can't. That's there, but you have to state your point and all this, rather than just go by your feelings, and because you're feeling it, everybody else has got to feel it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole point, is that we have to be very, very careful here. Otherwise, the association of the Sangha won't be progressive. And we see it runs into, all the, modern difficulties that are there, are all bred from this process. And there is no modern solution to these, because it's based in ignorance. It may be having good knowledge and skills, good qualities, but the point is ultimately what's the intent? Even the guy's very, good knowledge and skills, wonderful person, everybody likes them, but what's his intent? Is it to please Krishna? Is it Anandamaya? Is it liberation? Buddhists are nice guys, like that, So then, is it karma? Because, do unto others what you want them to do to you. So I want good facility, and I want to therefore deal with others in the proper way. So he's a nice guy, but it's karma. Or there's an ideology that this is what it should be, so I'm trying to do, and society will be so perfect because I thought that these are wonderful qualities. So it's below dharma, it's upadharma. So it has moral qualities, it has good qualities, but they're not based on Shastra, they're based on, one's desire. Not that they're any less in the way of the quality itself, but because the intent of the quality is less, therefore it's in a junior position. Does that make sense? So one has to be able to discern that. That's what we're trying to figure out here. not these forms that we're using. Now, to give example, it has to be in a field that we can appreciate the example, because we try to take it because we're taking that and we try to see it in something. But the point is we have to be helping in that process. That's the process of learning. That's why we start the verse with, Sahana Bhavatu San. May teacher and student then work together to try to understand the Supreme. Right? But if it's just a matter of, no, you have to make it all work for me. But that's okay if it's on a sentimental level. It's like the kid doesn't want to eat themselves, the mother has to feed them. But there's a relationship there. You know what I'm saying? But the point is there has to be a try. So therefore you want to feed, then you sit there. Not that everything they do, you push it off the table and this and that. I don't want to eat this and that, but you have to feed me. That's not nice.
It's mentioned in that verse that without jealousy.
Without jealousy.
We shall.
Yeah, so maybe there's a good relation between the student and the teacher, but the places where we're trying to apply it, then that jealousy can't be there. That's why I mentioned the other day about authority issues, or being self-centered, being the victim, or being these things, because these are with jealousy. So it's not. It may be there, it may be existing, but we have to go beyond that. So it's not that when those correct themselves, then I'll be able to be Krishna conscious. You can be Krishna conscious despite the world not being perfect, right? Did Dhruva Maharaj become perfect and become a pure devotee, even though his stepmother and stepson were still rat bags? No, it means he told Vishnu, I want to surrender, I want to be the pure devotee, but until you work out this injustice that's going on, I really can't, commit myself and surrender. That's the whole point, is the material world's built like this. We shouldn't have that faith that you can make the world a nice place. The world's always going to be a not nice place. You know what I'm saying? The whole point is okay, these village kids are running around. Now, why does a kid have a snot nose? Right? Because their nose has not been blown. Right? Now, do little kids like to blow their nose? Do they think about blowing their nose? Do they carry around a thing of handkerchiefs with them? No? No. Okay. So now, this kid is running around and doing all these things. Okay. Now, one, are they enthusiastic? Are they bright-eyed? Are they physically healthy? Right? Can they do so many things? Okay, now you take the kid that, is perfectly nose done, looks like, how you say, Lord was it Fauntleroy? Yeah, or Farquaad also. Yeah, that would work also. Like that. So, but can he do anything?
He can blow his nose.
No, someone else has to blow it for him. He's not taking the things and blowing his own nose. You understand? So someone's there, but then they can't do others. So you always have this thing. Now, if you can get to the point where they can run around and blow their nose, now that's perfection. So now it just looks good, but they can't do anything. They're not independent. They're not practical. Then is it actually better? So there is a difference there, yes. And that difference is just like, does that make sense? So the whole idea is that qualities are there. What's the purpose? What we're learning? That's what you have to analyze and see. Therefore, in these kids, you don't look at the snot nose. You look at, how they're able to do things and take part. From a younger age, they can be much more responsible. That's the part you want to keep. Now, all you have to add is blowing their nose. But because they're not blowing your nose, you throw out the whole village concept. Who's at lost here? We are. So we have to be very, very careful. And the worst part, it's not about the village and the snot-nosed kids. It's about Draupadi taking care of the queens at Dwarka. That's the most frustrating part. We're talking this such nice thing, and we end up down in snot-nosed kids. You know what I'm saying? It's not a problem that we follow it down there as long as it's a natural extension of our application. But if it's just a fight, then where's the point? What are we going to gain from that? So therefore we have to get all the snot-nosed kids in all the third world countries. Like there's millions of them. And until they do, then none of the city people are going to take up simple life. Right? But, yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, so that's the fun part. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. Whatever you said till now, it is perfectly follows Bhagavad Gita. Like we say, Arjuna was perceiving with his eyes the army. Then afterward is Hanuman is like how can enjoy, and he is using the Shastra that how we should not kill. Then after that, when Krishna chastises in the second chapter, it might be important like that.
Right.
Then he puts again Hanuman. Then further he says, now I surrender.
Yes.
Then after that he is just taking from Krishna. Once and again he puts Hanuman and asks after many shlokas one question, not that. So
yeah, he's not arguing over the point. It's just that it doesn't make sense because you've said this and you've said that. So they have faith in it and they want to know, but they can't quite see it. So in other words, the question is based on where I intellectually can't see it, not that I like it or don't like it. That's the difference. Means you having a forum where it's about what people like, don't like, then those are fun. Right? You know, you have a Ratha Yatra, you have the question and answer booth, or, you know, those kind of things like that. That's for that. You know, so you go in there, you're ready for that. But not that you're discussing Draupadi and the queens and this and that, and then you end up with like that, and then, you understand? You don't expect that. Because it's a different forum.
And at the end he says, Karishye Vachanam Tava.
Yeah, and now you do what you like. You know. Yes.
Maharaj, here the fourth main type of evidence is given, and then historical inference is also quoted. Now where it falls in Shabdanuman and Pratyaksha, it falls in Hanuman?
Inference is Hanuman. See, the fourth one, I don't know which one's the fourth one here.
Fourth one is and Vedas. It's told like.
Oh, that's a different fourth one. There it means the Veda is the first one. Then the histories or the examples given by the great personalities is the second. Then the third is our acharyas and then senior personalities and things like that. Then the fourth is ourself, in that group of four.
Okay.
But there is within logic then four groups that Gautama deals with. But the fourth one outside of Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda, whatever's the fourth one, we included in one of these others. It's already part of that. So Gautama's already done that there's 10 aspects. And so he's shown all the 10 and shown how they're all included within the 4. And then our acharyas have shown how they're included in the 3. The 4 is in the 3. That means whatever Gautama's already said of the 10 and the 4, that's already there, and then that all comes in. So it's just a matter of these are branches of all this. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like that, then it's given. So these 3 are used. In other words, you've heard, now you contemplate and practice, and then when you can see it according to Shastra, or Shastra Chakshus, that's realization. That's nididhyasana. Because then you value it. Right? Because what's the difference? I can't see it, I don't value it. I therefore fight against it. Right? So that's the... Does that make sense? So in other words, questions are very important because as we progress, we apply, and then we run out. That's why there's the forum for discussion and this, and then what you're having trouble with, someone else doesn't. What they have trouble with, you don't. So that's the thing. Everybody has their area of strength and weaknesses. That's why the assembly, the Sankirtana, that's important because every soul being individual, then their progression is different. And that way they can support each other. Does that make sense? So then that's why the forum is important. That's why we want to keep it at that kind of forum. Does that make sense? Because we're not dealing with, okay, you have the sages at Naimisharanya, one group of sages, and they have a natural leader amongst them. So he asks questions on behalf of all of them. But here we don't exactly have that. Everybody's coming from everywhere in the world, and so therefore then everybody's asking questions. But still the principle of that is thoughtful and how it's going to be applied, that has to remain. Yes?
Maharaja, is it that only a pure devotee can contemplate it exactly how it can be applied?
No, everybody can contemplate, but we base it on the teachings of the pure devotees. Otherwise, what are we going to base it on? Because otherwise we've been contemplating a long time and we haven't come up with anything really great.
Maharaj, I was reflecting on how Srila Prabhupada's god brother had criticized him when he gave sannyas to the foreigners.
Right.
But like Prabhupada saw it how the principles can be applied in the modern time and not his god.
It's not a matter of modern time. It's about the situation, because we have to remember that modern means not Vedic. That's how Manu describes it. So modern's always been there. Right? Just like, let's say, back in the Satya Yuga, the tribals living out in the forest and doing their own thing, they're modern. Right? Isn't it? You understand? So in the Vedic system, you had these great personalities. In the Satya Yuga, meditating on Super Soul and that, using then in Treta Yuga, then in Dwapara Yuga, and then now in Kali Yuga. So it's going down. Right? But for modern man, he connects through the modern line, the non-Vedic line. So yes, it goes back to, Neanderthal was there and, writing designs on caves in Europe somewhere. Like that. But at the same time, all these other people were already there. They're two parallel things. The Vedic is always there, the modern's always there. It's just sometimes modern is more sophisticated or not, or this way or that way. It's just always there. Does that make sense? The same society was the Greeks, then the same society became the Romans, then the same society became the French, right? Right? Because wasn't the Holy Roman Empire was from France? Yeah. So it's the same line, the same values, but it changes. Does that make sense? So that's the whole thing. Is that it's always there, and the Greeks were basing it on something before them. Just we don't know much about it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.